Hello, everybody, and welcome to this month's AMA, our Ask Me Anything with the OMSYSTEM super smart technical experts who know all the things about your camera questions. This month, we are focusing on spring as it's right around the corner for most of us in the Northern Hemisphere. Sorry, Australia and New Zealand, and all the computational features and who's its and what's its that live inside our camera system. And so if you have questions about any of those features or just have any important questions that you need help answered, drop them in the live chat. We will be going through, I will be starring all the questions and popping them up as we go to get them answered. If you're new here, which it seems like some people might be, yes, this is recorded and it will be available on our YouTube channel indefinitely after this. So you can always refer back to this session at a later date. So I guess without further ado, I should probably bring on some of our awesome, amazing technical experts. We'll start with Spain, España. Let's say hi to Tito. Welcome, Tito.
Hey, Michaela, how are you doing? I'm really happy to be here. Yeah, long time ago since the last time. Thank you.
Yes, of course. And Tomas is going to join us too. Hello,
Hola,
friend.
hola, señores y señoritas. Oh, sorry, I should speak English. Actually, I don't even speak Spanish, right? I just speak Czech. So,
you can try Czech,
which was like good evening.
That's amazing. I didn't know you knew that much Spanish. That was pretty impressive.
No, yo hablo español solamente un poquito.
Your Spanish is much better than my Czech.
Thank you.
And hailing from the UK, our newest tech expert, Richard. Welcome, Richard. We love having you.
Hello. And yes, I don't know any Spanish, so don't even ask me to try. It's not going to happen.
Oh, I didn't get the memo that we were supposed to have dark gray walls behind us today, but everybody else looks very good and stylish. So thank you, gentlemen.
We did? I didn't
it. It just happened that way. And I've got the white background. Well, I think we should probably get started jumping into some of our questions. Wow, there are people from all over the world. We got Mexico here. Oh, good, Tito, you can speak some Spanish. Colorado, a lot of US people.
We can create a private chat with the Spanish and Mexican people.
Yes. We got Norway here. All right. Lots of questions. And let's get started. I know we were kind of looking over some of these questions there at the beginning. Tomas, you were talking about the very first one that we have, which was how do we trigger pro capture buffering with back button focus?
Well, basically you don't. I mean, if you really want to take a picture of it including the pro capture functionality, you really need to use the shutter button release. Or you may have our remote control, physical remote control shutter release. Then it doesn't really matter if it's just a wireless, because you can connect it wirelessly without the cable, or you can use even the cable, which is included in the packaging. But still, you need to use really the shutter button release to actually use the pro capture if you want to use it. So unfortunately, the back button focus you can still use for focusing. That's perfectly fine. So for example, imagine there will be a situation of a bird, waiting or imagine there's a trunk with a nest and there will be a bird flying out of the nest. So the distance, so you can actually use the back button for the focusing. So you focus on the trunk, but then to actually really release it or to have the pro capture waiting for it, you need to half press the shutter release button and then fully press it. So yes, this is the only way how to do it with the pro capture.
Thanks. That's a popular topic. I think it gets brought up in almost every single AMA that we do. So thank you for clarifying that one.
Yeah.
Margaret would like to know, is it possible to do AE bracketing while using interval shooting? If so, can you please show how? Does anyone have a camera plugged in today?
I do have a camera, but you cannot use like the combination of computational features. It's the same with, for example, if you want to use high-res mode and use the exposure bracketing in the same time, that is not possible. You can either use high-res shot or you can use exposure bracketing. And this is the question about exposure bracketing while using interval shooting.
But interval, you should, in theory.
Well, let me see. Let me check. If you can, I switch. Yeah, I'll switch my camera on.
Let me
So
spotlight you.
let me go to the. Well, the thing is that since we have got the HDMI cable, we will not be able to see it anyhow. That's the point, because we can actually show, because
Yeah,
the HDMI cable actually disconnects some of the features. Many of them are grayed out now, which will not happen in your camera, obviously, because you don't have your cameras at home connected via HDMI cable. But that is basically not possible to show it to you live. I would have to have like a different camera actually grabbing the screen of my other camera, which I don't have the setup prepared yet, or at this particular moment. But basically, with this, if you set up the auto exposure mode for some sort of bracketing, auto exposure bracketing, then you cannot combine it with their interval shooting. That is my understanding. How about you guys?
You're right, Thomas. If you select, I will try later because I have a vertical camera, because
Okay.
I can't show it with this as you, because I have the cable, so I can't show the some of the features. But I'm pretty sure if you enable the interval shooting, when you go to the bracketing, the auto exposure bracketing, the interval shooting is off.
Yeah.
You can't combine both at the same time.
Yeah.
If you, I will try later. Let me set up with the vertical camera. I will show you that you can't combine those two computational modes. It's not possible.
Yeah, I'm pretty much sure that basically, like almost any computational feature, do not work two of them together. It's either one or the second one.
Right.
Like I mentioned, the high risk shot, auto exposure bracketing, or even, which is quite interesting, and that might be something for our R&D for the future. And that is, for example, people are shooting macro photography pictures, and they use our focus stacking or focus bracketing. And with the focus stacking, for example, sometimes they would like to use 2 seconds delay, which is not possible. You cannot do that. I mean, physically, I never used it. I don't really need it, because once you have the camera set up for focus stacking, basically you hold it in your hands. You are pointing at whatever, a beetle, small tiny subject, and then you are having the shutter release button half pressed anyway, meaning that you do the focusing and then you just fully press it. So basically you just don't shake the camera at all. But obviously I understand that from time to time somebody would love to use, let's say this, how is it in English, this 2 second delay? What's the
timer?
There's
the timer.
Self-timer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the English wording. Yeah. I had it in Czech, but obviously we want to hear it in English today. Self-timer mode. Okay, self-timer mode. So it doesn't work together with, for example, the focus stacking. Perfect, John. Now we see.
Yeah, I can show you this. Yeah, if you go to the menu with the interval shooting, and you enable it on, and you go, then it's on, okay? It's activated. If I go now to the auto exposure bracketing, and I go to any of them, the interval shooting is off.
Yeah. So they don't work together.
Automatic.
So you cannot keep both on.
Yeah. But honestly, wouldn't it be interesting to have this option, right? Like, for example, for landscape photographers, I think this is one of the wishes of landscape photographers, to have a combination of, for example, high-res mode, which is shooting in high resolution, then it's 20 megapixel, either 80 or 50 megapixel resolution, together with exposure bracketing, because this is exactly what landscape photographers do. They want to have the very high-res mode, let's say much better resolution than 20 megapixels. This is what they want. But in the same time, many of the times they use exposure bracketing, like -1, 0, +2, or even more, So I think that would be great if we have this sort of feature sometime in the future, but I can also imagine that it would need probably a much bigger buffer or even much faster processor. So it's not about just software or firmware, which many people think that we can just implement it into our cameras. But most probably this also, let's say, needs some hardware changes. So maybe, I don't know.
I understand, but I can't see why do you need, why you need to have bracketing, exposure bracketing at the same time than an intervalometer, an interval shooting, because from my ignorance, if you are shooting an interval shooting, if you're shooting an interval, you do that because you want to make later on maybe a video clip, or you need to have a continuous clip. It doesn't make any sense to have 3, 5, 7, 9 images overexposed or underexposed in a video clip. You know what I mean? If you're a landscape photographer, you are a landscape shooter, the exposure bracketing makes sense because you want to make sure that you have detail in the highlights, you have detail in the shadows, you have everything, you have a very wide, very deep dynamic range, you know? But I don't see why you need those,
Tito,
those exposures in the time lapse.
Yeah. I fully agree if you would be making the video out of it, if you would be making time-lapse video. But many people, from what I know, use the interval shooting not actually for creating the video at the end, but for simply having a series of images of something, of some situation which is changing in the period of time. Obviously, I still don't get it. Why would I need the exposure bracketing? But maybe somebody does. You know, you never know.
No. It makes sense. So that means that you have an interval shooting with 100 or 200 images with different exposures, and you can select one of them, 2 of them, or 10 of them. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
It's so like those cameras. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, the comments I was about to say, I think it's more for showing time lapse. And the comments are saying it's mostly about shooting eclipses and showing all the stages of it and not knowing the exact exposure and wanting to make sure you have the dynamic range. So I definitely think there is a potential application for this, but just not currently functional.
Also, maybe using our camera like the photo traps. You know, some people track animals, you know, out in the wild. So they would want to use, let's say, higher resolution camera, not just a regular photo trap, but this type of camera for this. So that's where the interval shooting could be used, even with the exposure bracketing, maybe. Yeah.
It's always good for us to think about new feature additions, right? And how we can apply that feedback to the future to make better cameras, obviously. All right, let us jump in. Anyone in here a big fan of light painting at all that wants to hit this one? So Coxcom1 would like to know, hi, can you suggest what timing I should be using to light paint in live composite mode? I'm using multicolored 12-inch battery-powered lights, and I'm only getting bright white mess during playback. I can answer this one too, but if somebody here likes live composite and light painting.
I just think that then, guys, I will let you answer as well. I just think if you are getting bright white mess during playback, then it means like it's overexposed. To me, my experience is that you are probably using during the live composite mode, you are using very open aperture. You should close down the aperture quite a lot, actually. When we are doing light painting workshops here, we even close down the aperture to like f13, f16, you know, so that actually the light doesn't go very quickly throughout the lens and hit the sensor. So basically, this is what I would recommend. You know, try to change the aperture setups, or what you can also do, obviously, you can also set up the shutter speed, because the default setting is 0.5 seconds, but you can obviously make it longer. You can make it 4 seconds, 8 seconds, you know. So it's up to you. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, it depends, because at the end, it means it's light. So if you are light painting with the lantern, with the torque, depending on the power of the torque, depending on how much do you want to light, do you want to paint, how much do you want to paint, depending on the subject, depending on so many things. Because in light composite, this is a stacking mode, it's an image stacking mode. and maximum exposure time for every individual image is 60 seconds. So, but it depends on, as you said, depends on the f-stop, it depends on the aperture, depends on if you're shooting live composite with 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 8 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. It depends on so many factors, so many parameters
Right.
as any individual shooting. So there's not a rule, not a single rule
Right.
for light painting. It depends on the light source, depends on the scene, depends on so many things.
Right. So what I generally recommend too, and this goes true for any sort of live composite that you might be doing, whether that's light painting, star trails, anything like that, is I always try to take a sample shot before I even move into live composite. So I'll set my ISO and my aperture, and then I will start with a 1/2 second exposure or maybe a 2 second exposure, and then take the shot. And if you're holding that torch and that light, whatever you're utilizing for your light painting, and it's overexposed, then you need to make an adjustment to that to darken it, so that when you then move into live composite mode, I need ISO 200, I need f8, and I need 2 second exposure. So you've pre-done the work, so you're not wasting time doing a live composite that's not working, it's overexposed, and that's what the white mess is that you're getting, is it's an overexposed image.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also I would say, as one more suggestion, if you are painting in the dark, for example, the light on the scene will not depend on the f-stop, it will not depend on the exposure, and it will depend on how much time you are lighting with torque,
Right.
So you can be shooting in the complete dark for 60 seconds and you don't switch the lantern on, anything happens. Nothing happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and also it's quite different, extremely different if you're lightening a subject, a model, a person, than you're lightening a cathedral or a church in the night. Depending on the subject, you will need more light power, or you will need more time lightening the scene. So there is not a single rule from my opinion.
Also, maybe one comment. I know the question was about live comp, which is okay, but maybe for somebody else who wants to try this, because there are like 3 long exposure modes in our cameras. There's the B mode, bulk mode, there's lifetime mode, and there's this live composite mode. Live composite, obviously, for this light painting is the best one, because you never overexpose something that's already lit, like the city at night, for example, right? There's lots of lights coming from the city. So we can basically never overexpose it, even though you are shooting for 2-3 hours exposure. But you can very easily overexpose it if you are using the bulk mode and lifetime, because they are totally different modes. With bulk mode and lifetime mode, basically the light is gathering. The longer you shoot, the longer the exposure, the brighter the image gets. So basically after maybe even 1 to 3 minutes, the picture can be totally overexposed. So watch out. And if you really want to live comp light paint, then I would rather use the live composite mode, which was the question. The question was about it, yeah. So.
Mm-hmm.
We're all about tangents today. We can talk about whatever we want. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Danielle would like to know, and I love these photos, how do I take a photo of a bird diving that will show 10 frames of the bird at different stages along the course of its dive? Anyone do this before?
How do I take
Guys,
a
go
photo
ahead.
of
I
the
will find
bird?
something in the meantime.
For me, that would all be done in post processing. That's quite a quick Photoshop thing to do. As long as you've got the 10 images to do it, and that's kind of the most simplest way of doing it. I think our cameras won't do it in house, so we'll definitely take you the shots.
Yeah, let me check if I'm getting the point. So Danielle wants to have just one picture, one shot with the 10 stages, right?
I'm not sure.
That's what I got at that. Yeah.
I think she's trying to get 10 frames, 10 shots, and the 10 different stages in only one final image, a final picture. So this is post-processing. This is stacking. This post-processing. I think the most important thing is that you can't move the camera. You need to have the same cropping.
Yeah.
the same crop of the scene. If you move the camera while you're shooting, you will not have the same background, so you will not be able to have the same scene.
Hey guys, I do have a very short video, which is obviously a pro capture video. It's from Peter Bambosik, one of our ambassadors. Let me just play it. It looks like a video, but obviously this is our pro capture sequential shooting mode using SH2. So basically it's a very fast mode. Let me show you yet another slightly different one. If it plays on. Yeah, this is like just a hummingbird flying all around the flower. But basically, the great advantage of this is that the distance from the photographer, in this case Peter Bambosek, and this hummingbird is still the same. So basically, he could be using Pro Capture SH1, which means that this is 120 frames per second. And basically, within those 1-2 seconds, you get so many shots that then you choose an image which would be looking, I'm just trying to find it, if I find it. Where is it? Let me just check very quickly. Yeah, so basically this would be the final shot. Let me enlarge it very quickly. It's on my second computer, second screen. There you go. So this will be the final shot. Same with the bird like diving into the water, right? So you get like 120 images a second, which is like extremely fast video shooting basically, but you are shooting it in raw data, in 20 megapixels raw data. So basically every single image out of this is a full image, full picture, not a video, but full picture. And then out of these, you just choose the one which you like best, or you like the best, the position of the wings, for example, and that would be the result. So I mean, the cameras can do it. You know, the cameras have the functions, they have the features. They have this extremely fast sequential shooting. It can be either used as a regular sequential shooting, 120 frames per second, or a pro capture with this 120 frames per second shooting. Or if you want to take a picture of something that's flying towards you or out from you, so basically the distance between you and the subject is changing, then you would be using the SH2 mode, either pro capture SH2 or regular SH2, which has 50 frames per second. But it can refocus from one image to another, which is still extremely fast. And it can all be also in raw data. So not only in JPEG, but also in RAW.
Yeah, we have an ambassador here in the US, Lisa and Tom Kuchara. They've done a couple of those with the birds landing, and they also use Pro Capture, and then they take all the different frames and, like Richard said, Photoshop it all into one image to where you can see every step of the way. So yeah, Pro Capture would be my recommendation there, because you're going to need as many of the frames as possible to do that edit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. This one I'm not sure of, because I don't think you can do it. Any tips on Pro Capture and in-camera multi-exposure would be great, but those are two computational features, correct, that can't be used simultaneously.
And
I'm
it is
just
Pro
wondering,
Capture in-camera multi-exposure will be great. Multi-exposure with Pro Capture. What does it mean?
Like multi-exposure is like two images against each other, right?
Yeah.
When we cross two images, well, why would you need multi-exposure for Pro Capture?
I think they're just asking tips on both those computational modes, not combining them.
Oh.
All right.
I would say,
sorry,
there is a way, not during the shooting, but if you want to combine 2 or 3 or more than 3 images in one, you can shoot it with the Pro Capture mode. What happens, Michaela?
Sorry, I got a new kitten. Attacked me.
Oh.
Jumped up into my lap. I am so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Tito.
And you can use Pro Capture if you want. For example, the Pro Capture, you need the Pro Capture for the action, right? And probably you are looking for a background where the image coming from the Pro Capture sequence to be combined with another background, another scene. And you can do that after the shooting. You can have the sequence from the Pro Capture. You can have another image, or to select one of those images and combine it as a layout to shoot over that. And you can this is not multi-exposure as we understand the multi-exposure in our computational modes, but you can do it by combining ProCapture by one hand, and then you can combine one of those images with a second shot in camera.
Yeah, totally. But I think, as Richard said, probably Liz is asking about like two different setups. Maybe if I can just show my camera for, let's say, the ProCapture. Let me see. One thing which I would definitely recommend for setting up the ProCapture, or in general the sequential shooting, is to go into this menu, and basically, because obviously the camera has some default settings. So if you go to a regular OK button menu, which is this one, then here you can choose all these sort of sequential shootings, you know, like the silent sequential shooting, the very fast one, which is the 120 frames per second, as I mentioned. Then this is the 50 frames per second, but you need to combine this with continuous refocusing, so that the camera actually can shoot 50 frames per second. If you include CAF, it will refocus from image to image. And then if you even combine it, for example, with birds, then it will even track the bird automatically. You don't have to like move your focusing point somewhere around the image area. So basically, these three setups will just follow the birds, for example, if you are talking about birds, automatically. But, and obviously, if you go farther, then you hit the ProCapture, then again, ProCapture SH1, as I mentioned, ProCapture SH2. But they have, if you choose them here, they have some default setups, so which would be 50 frames per second or 120 frames per second. But many people are actually asking us, yeah, but I mean 50 frames per second in continuous refocusing, this is too much for me. I don't need so many. So, and that is the time when I would go into the menu. You will go to the first yellow camera, you hit or you use this seventh page, basically, which is called drive mode. And you go to sequential shooting settings. And if you press OK now, then basically you can set up all sorts of sequential shootings which are on the camera. And on the left side, you see what I've just shown you. And on in the right column, you see the default setup, right? So if I would be, let's say, selecting, for example, SH2 for continuous refocusing, the default setup is, as I said, 50 frames per second, but you can change it. You can go to 25. And if you are the lucky owner of OM1 Mark II, then you can even go to 16 and 12 frames per second. It's 12.5 and 16.7, but I always say just 12 and 16. Doesn't really matter. But basically, the first OM1 offers 50 and 25, so you can go lower to lower sequential shooting. With OM1 Mark II already can, as well as with OM3, obviously. So I would, for example, switch to 25. And also, you can use a frame counter limiter. So you can actually limit the number of frames which will be shot. So I would say, okay, I want the camera to shoot, for example, 40 images. So I would limit it to 40 images. The sequence will be 20 frames per second, and that's it. And basically, if I go back, you can set up all sorts of sequential shooting, including ProCapture, just like this very easily. Yeah, so this is what I would recommend. And then obviously, if I change this setting, then I go to the OK button again. And if I set it up, select it up down here, then my setting will be already there on this particular thing. All from my side.
Copy, over and out. On that, I had a follow-up question. I need glasses, I think, guys. It's getting harder for me to read these comments these days. I'm getting old.
I've got glasses for computer too. Don't worry, I've got another one.
There was a follow-up question to ProCapture, and now I've lost it. Oh, since how we're on ProCapture, we might as well stay with this topic. Does ProCapture shooting at 50 FPS frames per second obviously follow focus based on subject?
Yeah, it depends on the ProCapture mode you select.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me show you, because we have two sequential modes. I will show you here. I present you my girls.
My girls.
my girls and my beer. And when you go to the page 7 and sequential modes, sequential shooting settings, we have two modes, SH1 and SH2. And we also have SH1 mode for ProCapture and SH2 for ProCapture. If you select SH1, this is using single AF, single autofocus. But if you select SH2, you will have continuous autofocus.
Also, one thing, and that is, it also depends on the lens. Not all lenses support refocusing 50 frames per second. Watch out. So, for example, if you've got the amazing black big 150 to 600, which is amazing for sports and wildlife photography, shooting birds, all this, but it doesn't do 50 frames per second. You would have to have the big wide, the 150 to 400, which does support it, right? So there are changes or differences between like pro lenses and standard lenses as well in this sort of
And I will say 100, 400, and 150 to 600. They are not in the pro line because of that. Because they are wither sealed. They are very good focus. They are not, but just because they are not able to shoot more than 25 frames per second, they are not in the pro line.
It's not, many people think usually that it's basically, it depends on the camera, how the camera can focus, how fast can it focus. But obviously you need to actually move the lens element, focusing lens element, which is within the lens, and the movement happens because of some sort of type of special engines there. And these engines actually have some, let's say, limited speed of how fast they can move the lens focusing element. So this is basically based on this.
Yeah, and this is a similar reason to those lenses which are not able to be used for the focus stacking, because we have the pro line and the standard line of lenses, and not all of the pro lenses are able to be used for focus stacking, because the 17 f1.2, the f1.2 lenses, 17, 25, and 45, they can't be used for focus stacking. And by the other hand, 30, 60, and 90 millimeters macro lenses, they can. So this is, as you said, because of the optical engine, the inside optical engine.
Thank you, gentle sirs. In addition to that, sorry, I might have missed it because I was checking the audio because somebody was saying they were having audio issues. Did we just address this? Oh, I didn't know that. What's the fastest frames per second the 100 to 400 will support? Do we know?
So it's 25,
25, yeah. Thank you.
With refocusing, obviously, with refocusing. If the focus is fixed, so for example, SH1, then it would do 120 frames per second, right? So,
But continuous autofocus, yes. 25.
Yeah, continuous will be 25.
Thank you. Sorry, I hope everyone's audio.
Sorry, Michelle, which is still so much. Imagine that the very fastest DSLR from, let's say, a brand which is dedicated to sports photography mostly. Are we allowed to mention brands? Well, I will not. Anyhow, everybody knows the most expensive DSLR ever on the market. Very best sports camera. It could do 12 frames per second, and everybody considered it as the fastest. And it was in that time. It was the fastest camera on the market, right? I mean, every single tiny camera now, even smartphone, can do more than 12 frames per second, right? We've got 120 frames per second in RAW, so it's not like somebody does so that they are actually shooting video, and out of this they are getting the images like JPEG images in 4K resolution, which is very low. So we are not doing this. We are doing RAW format in all these, let's say, sequences we are talking about. It's all raw images, raw data, full data. Yeah. So it's very fast.
I'm sorry.
Even 25 is very fast.
Go ahead, Toma or Tito.
Yeah, I was going to say that we are able to shoot 120 frames per second, not because we need them for a sequence, we need for burst mode, but because we also have so amazing computational modes like LiveND. For those who doesn't know, our LiveND one step is LiveND 2 is the camera shoots 2 frames, 2 pictures, 2 shots. And if we go to the 7 EV steps, LiveND 128, the camera will take 128 images. If you want to take handheld LiveND 128 7 steps, you need a so fast camera like this. That's one of the reasons. Not because we need 120 frames per second to shoot, to follow, to track a subject, a fast-moving subject, because we also have a very powerful computational mode which need, and nobody else has. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can I just, yeah, thanks, Michelle. I mean, this is just a couple of images from our ambassadors, where they actually used Live ND. What Live ND is, probably everybody knows. Basically, it's normally if you want to get less light into your image, you want to basically blur the waterfall, for example, you would need to buy a regular glass ND filter and put it in front of the lens to actually get less light into the lens element and on the center, to be able to use the longer exposure time to blur the water. But with software ND filter, which we have built in our cameras or in your cameras, which you've got at home, basically you can just turn it on, choose whether you want ND from 2 to 4, 8, 16, and so on up to 128, and then you can use it for blurring the water. And here, for example, 2 tiguanas, or what is the name of these lizards? Well, I think it's iguanas, something like that. They are sitting on a rock. This is again from some ambassador picture, and obviously the sea around is moving, right? But you can blur it very nicely like this, or you can just use it for this sort of type of photography, where basically again the sea is very nicely blurred, or this sort of photography, which would be the most typical image, because many people use it for landscape photography when they are taking pictures of waterfalls. Or even here, you can see that the white water down there is not frozen, so it wasn't like a regular shot with a very fast shutter speed, but it was with the use of Live ND. Or even this down there, it's not mist. It looks like a mist, but it's a sea. It's a water down here. Or again, one of the most typical images where people would use Live ND. So you don't really need to buy glass ND filters. You just have your camera. And the great thing about it is, as Tito just mentioned, it goes so fast. I mean, the image is one after another once you press the trigger, that basically you don't even need a tripod. Obviously, it is easier to make the composition properly and so on, to put it on the tripod, but you don't really need it. You can handheld very easily Live ND even 128, which is in OM1 Mark II. The only camera actually which has 128. If you've got OM1 first or OM3, you still have Live ND. You can go up to ND 64. Yeah, so this sort of images basically. Yeah, that's all from my side. Mishala.
I will drop it down. Sorry, I'm doing 10 things at once. But somebody, Kathy had a follow-up question on Live ND. Is it possible to get a raw image versus a JPEG
What do you
in
mean
Live
versus...
ND?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
yeah, for sure. You get a raw image.
You can combine it. Yeah.
Right.
You can use both.
You can select. You can configure the camera to shoot RAW or JPEG or both, and you will get whatever you select. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other computational mode. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, in case Kathy doesn't know, you're actually setting that in your super control panel like you would for standard photos, which I think Tomas is about to show us where that is. Let me spotlight him. So right down there, oops, let me hide the comment. Down here at the bottom, you can adjust, large, super fine, raw, large, fine, medium. You can adjust your JPEGs and your RAWs in there. So if you're setting it to shoot JPEG and RAW, you'll get both a JPEG and RAW when utilizing Live ND. And then I think Tito was about to tell us which features don't apply to to RAW when being used.
Yeah, I was going to say that the focus stacking. This is the only computational mode when you shoot focus bracketing and focus stacking in camera. The final image will be a JPEG, but you can keep the raw files, so you can also stack the images afterwards in the computer. But the final image on camera, this is the only computational mode where you only have a final JPEG image, focus stacking. The rest of them, Live ND, high res, all of them, you will get a raw file.
Thank you. It is. I just remembered one thing. Because as you were saying, what is possible with RAW and JPEG, what's not. Basically, for example, if you've got this amazing OM3, which looks like this 53-year-old OM1. Basically, you all know this is a digital camera we launched last year, was it? And recently, actually, 1 month ago, was it? We launched OM3 Astro. So if anybody is in astrophotography, go back into the YouTube, and there is a Spanish and English version of our OM3 Astro introduction. You can learn lots of stuff about it. But basically, you reminded me, Tito, this wheel which we've got in front of the camera, where you can actually choose some of those, let's say, color simulations or color film simulations or black and white simulations. But again, they will only be simulated in JPEG. In RAW, you can always go back to the original picture which you shoot, and then you edit it in the computer the way you want. But if you want to have this sort of, let's say, film image looking picture directly from your camera in JPEG, obviously only, then you use this wheel to set it up very easily.
Yeah, you're right.
Easy.
I'm just going to call this episode the sidebar episode, because we just keep talking about whatever computational features come to our mind. Sorry. We'll go back to answering questions, guys. I promise. We do care about you. Maybe Richard wants to take a stab at one on focus stacking for landscape. Daddy Benson would like to know, hi, I can't use focus stacking to cover the near foreground to the background sky and mountain, even if I set the focusing gap as the 10, the differential gap. The background is always out of focus. So do we have any tips for that, how to improve that, other than I would stop down my f-stop?
That's really weird.
Yeah, that should be doing that. I would look at the autofocus points, make sure they're kind of 3/4 of the way into it, and then work back from that. So that for me would then ensure the background's in focus, and then you then experiment in terms of how much your foreground is in focus. That's the way I would go about that. For me, I wouldn't focus stack potentially on landscape anyway, but I'd always be using high res instead. But I can see why you'd want to, though, if you want to make sure that everything is in focus. So yeah, for me, I'd kind of move those autofocus points a little bit further down the line. Make sure you're picking up that background first, and then see how much foreground you want to keep.
Yeah, I totally agree with one little point which you mentioned sideways, and that is, you said, which I would never use anyway. I mean, honestly, I know we are saying people, hey, there is this stacking mode, focus stacking mode for macro photography, obviously, where you will use it, but you can also use it for architecture and landscape. We always say that, but I don't know any single professional landscape photographer using Micro Four Thirds standard, which would actually use stacking for that. They use high-res shot, as you mentioned, to have much higher resolution. But guys, don't forget about one thing. What may be in some genre disadvantage is a great advantage in landscape and macro photography, and that is that we have double the depth of field compared to full frame. So basically, if you set up your aperture, which it might be your case, that you might be, Daddy Benson, you might be setting up your aperture quite open, using, I don't know, 3540 or something like that, which obviously would not cover the depth of field of the whole countryside up to the infinity. But if you use apertures like 8 or even 10, which actually is equivalent of 16 or even 20 or 22 on full frame, which you would never use anyhow on full frame, then you basically get very, very big depth of field, and almost everything will be in focus. You just need to find the point where to focus. Obviously, you cannot focus 1 meter in front of you on a rock or on a stone or something. Also, you cannot focus on infinity, but you need to find this sort of, let's say, 1/3 of a way point where you will focus, and then the rest, and obviously also the foreground will be in focus somehow. This is what I would do. Just my idea how to do it. Yeah.
I fully agree, Thomas, but I will say in a practical way, if you're using a wide angle lens and you're using a f-stop like f8, f9, and your foreground is not closer than 3-4 meters, I'm quite sure that the hyperfocal is about 6-7 meters, and so that you will have your foreground and your background completely in focus. I'm quite sure. So as you said, one of our advantages in our system is that the depth of field in our case for f8 is same thing than if you have an f8 16 22.
16. Yeah.
F11 16 f16.
Yeah.
F8
16.
in our case is f16 in a 24 by 36 frame sensor. So if you can't do it with Micro Four Thirds, you will never do it. You will not be able to do it with any other camera.
And same with macro, as I said, it's a great advantage actually in macro photography. And that is probably one of the reasons why when we launched the 90mm macro lens, which is like everybody knows it's the most amazing lens on macro in general now in the photographic market, then many photographers, even those using other brands, if they are using macro or shooting macro, then many of them have yet another set in their bag, and that is OM1 plus 90mm macro. And that's what I use. Right. Yeah, for shooting great.
I'm thinking, Thomas, guys, I'm thinking that maybe because Daddy Benson is saying that he's using focus stacking. It's a bit tricky what I'm going to say, because the focus stacking, when you are going to a bracketing and you focus on the foreground and you say, I don't know, 50 frames, 50 shots, the foreground, the first shot will focus here and the rest will go to the background. But focus stacking is quite different. And if you say, I want to focus here, the camera will, 10 frames, the camera will shoot here, then the second one will go to the foreground, the second one will go to a little bit behind, then behind, they will jump behind the first one, and then will go to the infinite. So maybe he's seeing the background out of focus, because I will check all of the frames, I will check all of the shootings, because when the camera is stacking the sequence, if there are images with no focus at all in the foreground or in the background, will stack and will create a hollow image, and you will get even worse result than if you use less images than 10 or less than 15. In some cases, more images is not better, it's even worse. If they are not focused in any area, you know what I mean?
Right.
Joanne, wouldn't it be brilliant? Yeah, wouldn't it be brilliant if we have this focus stacking feature even more advanced sometime in the future? And I would love it, and many macro photographers would as well. We don't have it yet, guys, so I'm not saying that we have it, but I would love it.
Yeah, but we will.
And that is that you would actually set up the first image, then the last image. So basically you would focus, for example, on 1 meter, then you would focus on infinity, and then let the camera do the rest. So the camera would actually count how many images does it need, what would be the aperture, you know, and then it would just press the trigger and it would just take, I don't know, 20 shots, for example, refocus for certain distances, and that would be it. And you will have your final shot perfect. But I got frozen.
Yeah, you did.
Did I get frozen for a
okay.
second?
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
No, it's all right. It's all right now.
Anyhow, we don't have this feature. It's on the wish list.
I was going to say, we should jump forward a little bit. I'm going to give us a little bit of some softballs that we should be able to answer a little bit quickly, because we've only got about 12 minutes left and we've got quite a few more questions to get through. So I'll give a really easy one. Richard, can I use the digital teleconverter combined with handheld high-res mode?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. This one we might need a camera for. C-Shock has eye issues that the diopter is also not helping them with. On the OM1, you could make the focus point thicker and darker, but they cannot find this on the OM1 Mark II. Do we have that feature also in the OM1 Mark II?
Yeah, you can change the color of the AF target and the point ticket. Yeah, let me show you my camera. If we go to this menu, let me see here in the grid settings. In the display color, we have 2 presets, right? 1 and 2. If you have preset 1, for instance, a dark one, and preset to a red one, you can change it here. And that color you use, the color you select here will be the color you will see in the AF area, the AF target, and also in the metering point. Let me change to the red one, okay? Preset 2 is red. I go to preset 2 and I will have it in red. You see? It's in red.
Yeah.
And you can change to any other color. If you need it darker, you can go to the color preset 1, for example, and go to 250 to 50 to 50. I'm sorry. You can combine RGB and also the alpha channel. You see, red. You can combine the 3 channels. And whatever you do here, color preset 1, you change to color preset 1 here, and you will have that color in the frame, in the area, in the dark, in the AF area, in the metering point. You see, you can work, you can play with it.
I just had an impression from the question that the person who was asking the question said that there was a difference between OM1 and OM1 Mark II, but in this case, what Tito was just explaining is exactly the same.
It's the same.
So we can do
exactly.
it also on the first OM1 as well as on OM1 Mark II. So there's like no difference in this. Yeah.
All right, let's test everyone's memory here because it's been a while since I've gone through these. What are the feature differences, computational features, not the deep dive features, but the computational differences between EM10 and the OM5? So
the
EM10's
OM5 Mark 1. Okay.
Yeah, Mark 1. The EM10 is not going to have starry sky autofocus. It also doesn't have focus stacking. This is a memory test for us, guys. This one's kind of hard.
It doesn't have a high res mode. It doesn't have high res mode. It cannot shoot high res.
That's right. No high res mode. No
high res in the
live
10
ND.
series.
No live ND.
No GND. No graduated ND filter neither.
Yeah, and you have live composite. You have live comp, but the live comp in the OM5 is more. You have more control in the live composite of the OM5 Mark 1 or Mark 2 than EM10 Mark 4. Yeah.
Yeah, EM10's live composite is more automatic. It chooses the settings for you.
Yeah, HDR even. So some computational modes in the EM10 Mark 4 are more automatic than in the rest of the models.
So what I suppose that the person is basically now thinking whether he or she should buy EM10 Mark 4 or OM5 Mark 1, right?
Yeah.
What I would suggest is go and buy OM5 Mark II. Sorry for that. No, I mean, really. I mean, because OM5 Mark II, it's a tiny camera, but 5 series in general is perfectly weatherproofed. 10 series is not proofed at all. So basically, you need to. I mean, it can withstand some very light rain, but I mean, it's not weatherproofed, right? While 5 series is, but there is no difference between 5 Mark 1 and Mark 2. But OM5 Mark II already has the whole new menu. The design of the menu will be the same as we are showing throughout today. So the same menu which our flagship OM1 has, which our OM3 has. Now OM5 Mark II has the same design of the menu. So if in the future you buy a more advanced camera, you will already be accustomed to the menu. Also, OM5 Mark II basically behaves and has the same features like we had in our previous flagship, which was EM1 Mark III. So basically, it also has this focusing on stars, for example, all these live NDs, all these high-res mode. It does have sort of not as advanced, but pro capture mode. It also does have this focus stacking, focus bracketing, So obviously limited. There is live ND also. It is limited. You can go up to ND 16, but still it is there. I used OM5 Mark II in Dolomiti last summer. And I used it for waterfalls like all the time, because there are many waterfalls in the mountains, and I love the camera because it was small and lightweight. So to me, OM5 Mark II, it is a mountain camera. You know, if you are going out there for whatever you do, if you go just to the forest or to the mountains or on a holiday, I would take this one because it's small, but it's also weather sealed, and it gives you all the features of our previous flagship. Really, I mean, it's an amazing stuff. So I would choose a third one.
JTech99 is saying that story. He or she is trying to save dollars, but still get features, and you can't have everything if you want to save dollars. EM10 Mark IV is amazing. It's a great camera for beginners, and also it has many computational features and advanced photography. There is a mode of advanced photography with most of the features and the functions are there. But also, if you want to have an accurate and precise autofocus, you don't have phase detection, for example. It's only contrast.
Right.
Well, it depends. It's a great camera, but it's not comparable.
Yeah. Okay, moving to this one should be pretty simple and easy, and I've seen 3 people ask it, so apparently people really want to know what the difference between focus stacking is and bracketing. Richard, you want to hit this one?
So focus stacking is in our cameras, we'll basically stitch all the frames together, whereas focus bracketing will literally give you all the single shots and not stitch them together. So you'd have to do that all in post editing afterwards. That is the basis of it. I'm sure the other guys will have a more technical view of it than I will. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of images, which is obviously the limit,
yes.
right? With the focus stacking, the camera can stack inside, in the body of the camera, it can stack 15 images. So what you get on your SD card is actually 15 images, which can be shot even in RAW. And then there will be the 16th image, which is the stacked one, but that one you will get only in JPEG, right? So if you want to stack it, for example, a different way, different algorithms, using, for example, Helicon focus software or some other softwares to do it, then you can still take those 15 images, put it in the computer and stack a different way. And also there is one tiny difference in the way, which basically Tito already explained. If you use focus stacking, then basically, if this is the place where you focus, then the camera jumps like 2 steps towards you first, and then it starts taking the 15th images. While if you use the focus bracketing, the place where you focus is the place where it starts. And from here, it goes, for example, you can go up to 999 images in focus bracketing, but obviously you never use that. But for images like, let me just find some very quickly, you can use very easily focus stacking of, for example, 150 or even more images. Let me just brought some out here. Yeah, can we? No, I need to share it. No, this is it. Yeah, this is it. So for example, if you want to shoot images like these, this is just a fly, regular fly, which you normally kill on the table, you know, as it sits. But this is like 150 images stacked together. This is just few images stacked, you know, these sort of shots, you all know. Well, this is something totally different, but yeah. Yeah, for example, this image again, this is, I think, 55 images as far as I remember. This is from an ambassador, which we've got, a macro ambassador. But again, this is not one shot. You will never be able to take a picture, the macro image like this with only one single shot, even though you close down the aperture to whatever, f16, something like that, because you will not get the background blurred as it is. If you use f16, you'll probably get an image which will be almost in focus almost everywhere, but you will not really get the detail properly. So if you want to do it, you need to use the focus bracketing in this case, using more shots, those 50 or 100 images, depending on what you shoot. And basically, you will get this sort of result. And there is one easy rule, and that is the smallest the subject is, the smaller the differential between one and the second image you need to choose, because you know that in the camera you can set up from 1 to 10. 1 is the smallest differential, so you need to use the smallest differential, and even more images you need to take. So yeah, the smaller it is, the more images you need to take and then stack them together in the computer, obviously.
Right.
Yep.
Okie dokie, we're cruising right through that. Already got that one. Coming back through, I think we can only do one or two more, guys. I'm sorry we went so over time today, but as always, we'll check out the comment section afterwards as well. And we do try to answer these and get you as much information as possible. We also try to do these once a month, so you can always join us next month for another AMA as well. And this one will be recorded. And then I also dropped the events link in the chat, where we host a whole series of Zoom sessions as well as online live streams such as this. Quick question. If you have the 40-150 Pro and a 1.4, the MC14 teleconverter, will it support autofocus at 120 frames per second? No. It would do single
125
autofocus.
frames per second.
Yeah, I think they meant to type 120.
Yeah,
Okay.
120.
But with 120, you can only have single autofocus anyway.
Yes.
Yes. So you will be able to use that lens, but it was not going to support continuous autofocus E-lane.
Well, it will, but the limit will be the 50, not 120, right? 120.
But with the
obviously.
teleconverter as well?
Same. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
It's the same. The limit of 50 frames per second or 120, it doesn't depend on the converter. It depends on the continuous autofocus or single AF.
Right. One more light painting question. Going back to something related to light painting, I have the same problem with overexposing fireworks using live composites. Are there setting recommendations? For this one, for me, it's shorter shutter speed. I only do a half second when I do firework photos.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, you're just
also,
letting it. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just about to say that also it's good for me as a photographer, standing behind the camera, looking at the display, that basically you get a renewed image every half a second. So basically you are really watching the fireworks live on your screen as they are actually drawing the image, on the black sky.
Yep. Yeah, I tried experimenting early on with longer exposures and it just turns into a white blur. Use the shortest possible shutter speed there when you're doing the fireworks. That should help.
And I really think that because probably a lot of people have the problem with overexposing during live composite, I really think that you are using open aperture. Just close down the aperture, really. You don't need to take care of, some details, sharpness, and so on, which maybe the f16, f22 would have a problem with, because you will not get a properly sharp image. But this is not something that you take care about when you are taking basically shots in the dark, at night. You only want the light, which is the fireworks in this case, to draw the image, on the black background basically, which will be the black sky at night. So really close down the aperture, or even try it at home. Once we finish this YouTube, take your camera, put it on the table. Just shut off all the lights which are in the room. Maybe let just one light lit, and that's it, so that you can see. Turn the camera on, switch, go to the B mode, go to live composite mode. Close down the aperture all the way down to f22. Don't worry about it, and then take some torch and do some light painting, and you will see how it works. And you will never get it overexposed. Really, it will be very difficult.
Yeah. All right, I think.
Homework
that's homework. Everybody go light paint and then tag us on Facebook and Instagram and show us what you light painted to make Tomas happy.
Exactly.
He will give you grades.
All
right, we are over time today, and I just really want to thank everyone in the comment section today for adding their questions, and also, as always, helping out your friends and other community members down here in the comment section when a question gets asked and you guys answer. It's always so helpful to see. We have such a wonderful community of human beings at OMSYSTEM, and we're thankful that you're a part of it. And basically, until next time, I guess we will see you soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you too. And if you love retro camera, don't forget.
Sorry.
No. I was just saying that if you love retro cameras, there is this OM3. Don't forget about it.
And everybody remember, this is a live stream and I'm just back here pushing buttons and messing everything up. So thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, everyone. Bye.